Hello there and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to wax your bicycle chain. A lot of people have been asking me about how I wax my chain, what do I use, what's the process. So this video is going to explain that. We're going to take this brand new Shimano 11-speed chain. It's packaged as is, as it comes from the factory. And there's really two steps to it. So first you got to completely strip it of all the factory grease that's already on there, and that cleaning process is pretty intense. And then once that's done, then you do the actual waxing part. The cleaning and stripping part, that only needs to be done once. So for the life of this chain, we'll just clean it and strip it once, and then after that, we could just wax it and repeat the waxing process every 200 to 500 miles that we ride. But we never really need to do the intense cleaning that we're gonna do first. So this video is gonna detail the cleaning process, and then we'll get into the waxing process. So I guess I should add why wax, and three reasons come to mind for me. So one is if you care about going fast, that is if you're racing. A waxed chain will save you at minimum somewhere between 4 and 6 watts, the studies suggest, and that's been pretty extensively tested by a lot of independent testers, that even a perfectly clean and freshly lubed chain and drivetrain, compared to a waxed one, it's going to be 4 to 6 watts faster. And then as you ride with a traditionally lubed chain, it picks up, as you know, if you ride, obviously it picks up all that dirt and grime from the road, and it just becomes this disgusting like black chain that it grinds on itself because all that dirt gets stuck in there. It sticks to the lube. So the chain just gets slower and slower and slower the more you ride it, until you clean it again and get back to like its baseline, but that's still slower than a waxed chain. All right, now the second reason a wax chain is superior is that it's gonna make all your components last longer. So the chain itself is gonna last longer, your cassette is gonna last longer, your chain rings are gonna last longer, and that's because, going back to what I just said, it's cleaner. It doesn't pick up that dirt and grit from the road. And when that happens, when you get that dirt and grit in there, it just the lube, it turns it into like a grinding paste really, and it just grinds away at all of the metal in the chain rings, and the cassette, and that causes them to wear out. So with a wax chain, you're not picking up that dirt and grit from the road. It just doesn't pick that up. The dirt hits the wax chain and it just bounces right off, I guess. So all of those components are going to last longer. Obviously nothing will last forever, but you're gonna get a lot more life out of your components with a wax chain compared to a lubed chain. Now the third reason is, and I really like this one, is it's a lot cleaner. Again, since it doesn't pick up that dirt and grime, you can literally, after riding your wax chain, you can like touch it with your hand and not get any black, like gross, grimy, oily grit on your hands. No more Cat 5 calf tattoos. If you accidentally touch your leg up against a chain. I put my bike in my car and I had massive grease marks all in my car from where the chain had touched. I even somehow got chain marks on like the ceiling of the car. And you accidentally touch the couch in the house or something, and it's just so gross. That doesn't happen with the wax chain. You could touch it, it's clean, it touches things, it doesn't leave any oily, greasy residue. It's like nothing is there. So for those three reasons, it's enough for me to switch over to wax. I've been riding it for a while now and I love it. The downside for many people is the initial cleaning process. And then when you re-wax, you need to take your chain off of the bike. Now, it may sound like that's a lot more difficult than actually lubing it the traditional way, but it's really not that hard. You plug in the pot of wax, you let it heat up, and then you pop off the chain, dunk it in, hang it out to dry, and then pop it on the next morning. It takes maybe, not counting for when the wax is heating up, it takes maybe 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, and you do that every 200, 500 miles. So that's my sales pitch for wax, but this video is how to do it. So the first step is, if you're not already riding a wax chain, is we need to get rid of your old chain and really clean up your drivetrain components, because there can be no leftover grease on the cassette, the jockey wheels, and the chain rings. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove our old chain, cut this new chain to the proper length, and then we will clean our chain rings and our cassette and our jockey wheels. All right, so we're gonna remove the chain from this thing. What you're gonna need for that is a pair of chain pliers, or if you don't have a quick link master link, you'll need a chain breaker. But you'll need this chain breaker anyway for the next step when we cut the new chain to the proper length. Find your quick link master link. For me, mine is right here. Again, if you don't have one, you'll need to use a chain breaker, pin pusher to break it the old-fashioned way. You take your chain pliers, and it's just this normal procedure. All right, so now that the chain is removed, you want to give a thorough cleaning to the chain rings, the cassette, and the jockey wheels on the rear derailleur. So best way to do that is get a little brush like this, and then you want to mix some degreaser and water together. Dip the brush in that, and then just give a good scrubbing to the chain rings. You can take the rear wheel off, scrub the cassette, and scrub down the rear derailleur to get the jockey wheels, because we want to make sure that there is no grease or grime left over on our drivetrain. We want a grease-free drivetrain. We're going to wax, so if you got anything left on there, the wax chain is gonna be going thousands of times on your ride and picking up all that leftover grease and grime. So we wanna get rid of that. And again, this cleaning process only needs to be done once. All right, so the next step is we wanna make sure that our new chain is the proper length. They give you a lot of chain, and then you cut it down to the length you need. So to do that, we take our old chain and we measure our new chain up against it, and then cut it to the correct length. All right, so here we got, this is old chain, and we will unpackage the new chain. You wanna make sure you do not lose the quick link. And literally we are just going to line it up link for link. All right, so we have lined up the chain perfectly against each other. So this one on the top is the old chain. This one on the bottom is the new chain. This is the old quick link, and I got the new quick link over here. So we just lined it up perfectly. Link matching link. And you can see this new chain goes on a little bit too far. So right here, I want to push out this pin with my chain breaker, and that will have the chain cut to the correct size. If your old chain did not have a quick link, then you need to make sure that when you're cutting your new chain, you are accounting for that extra half of a link. So your new chain will have one, your old chain won't. You're gonna wanna leave an extra space for that chain. With that complete, that concludes the usefulness of your old chain. So at this point you can toss that or make art out of it, whatever you want to do. So now from here on out we will focus on cleaning the new chain. To clean the chain and properly strip it of all of its factory grease, you will need some clean, odorless, colorless mineral spirits, and a jug, plastic jug container for that, and some denatured alcohol and a plastic container for that. You'll need some solvent resistant gloves. Make sure they are solvent resistant, or else these solvents will just rip holes right through them. Obviously your new chain, some paper towels, a couple rags, and a funnel, and a place to pour in your used solvents. So these are old solvents that have been used and are dirty. And then when this gets full, take it to your local recycling center and dispose of it safely. So our first step is to bathe the chain in the mineral spirits. So put on your solvent resistant gloves, safety first. Drop your chain into the jug. You can do your quick link too, if you so please. And then cover it in the mineral spirits. After you cover the chain in mineral spirits, you want to give it a good shake for 2 minutes. So shake it up for 2 minutes. Okay, after you've shaken for 2 minutes, it is time to remove the chain and wipe it down with a rag. If your hole is not, if the mouth of your jug is not big enough for your hand to fit in, and you need to fish out the chain or the quick links, you can use a metal wire clothes hanger to fish them out. So you want to give the chain a nice wipe, the whole thing. And you'll be able to see on your rag all this leftover dirt or grease that you wipe off of the chain. So ideally, when we're done, you would wipe that off of the chain and you would get no residue. It would just still be a clean rag. All right, so I've removed the quick links as well. And now this has been used, these mineral spirits. So I'm going to discard them, and then we will do a second bath, same thing in the mineral spirits. We're just gonna repeat what we just did. So you wanna discard of your mineral spirits that have been used. It's not really safe to dump this stuff down the drain or dump it in the yard outside. So this is why you wanna pour it into its own jug, and then bring it to your local, dump, recycling center, where they will have a place for you to dispose of it properly. Now you want to take a paper towel and clean out the inside of the jug that you just used, because there's going to be a lot of residue left over on the inside, and we do not want that on our chain. So clean out the inside of the jug. And you can see on here even what you're picking up. I mean, there's a lot of blackness on this paper towel. So dump your chain back in. Quick links. Cover it in mineral spirits. Now this time, we are going to shake it for 2 minutes, and then we're gonna leave it sit overnight before we shake it for another 2 minutes and then remove it from the mineral spirits. So You're gonna let this chain sit and soak overnight before we pick up and finish tomorrow. Okay, so welcome back. It is tomorrow. This has sat overnight. Shake it again for 2 minutes when you wake up in the morning or whenever you resume this procedure. And same thing, we are going to remove the chain and wipe it down. All right, so this time as I'm wiping, there is less residue being left on the rag, and that is good. We want less and less residue each time we do this. Yeah, so I'm just getting a little bit of residue. All right, so after the second bath in mineral spirits, so we shook it, let it sit overnight, shook it again, take it out, dry it with a rag. We can get rid of this mineral spirits and repeat it one more time. You don't need to let it, this third one, you don't need to let it sit overnight, but just do a regular, cover it with new mineral spirits, shake it for 2 minutes, take it out, and clean it with a rag. You can really do this however many times you want. If you want to stop at 2, that's fine. Usually 3 works really well and gets it pretty much clean. If you want to do 4, 5, 6, that's up to you. But I would suggest at least 3 because like I said, you only need to do this once. Once it's clean, and then you can just wax and re-wax and you don't need to clean it in between. So it's worth doing it right and giving it 3 proper baths at minimum. So I won't show that. We've already done 2. You can envision what the third one will be, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay. Okay, so the next and final step is literally the same thing, but this time with denatured alcohol instead of mineral spirits. We don't need to let this sit overnight at all, and we're just gonna do 2 baths. So 2 baths with denatured alcohol, and then we're done. Oh, I hope I have enough. That would be embarrassing if I didn't have enough. There we go. Works for me. All right, so same thing, shake this 2 minutes. Pull it out, wipe it down with a rag, dump it out, clean out the inside, and then do it again. Do it a second time, and then we are done cleaning and we can move on to the actual waxing part. Okay, so we have shaken up our 2 baths of denatured alcohol. You'll want to use a new rag when you wipe with your denatured alcohol compared to the mineral spirits. And when you wipe out the insides, you want to use a new paper towel each time. You want to make sure you're getting all of that residue out of there. You want this chain nice and clean. For the denatured alcohol, definitely don't let it sit in there overnight. It's not good for it. You can let it sit in the mineral spirits overnight, but not in the denatured alcohol because there is like a high enough water content in there that it's not good for the chain. So don't think you're doing one-upping me by leaving it sit in the denatured alcohol for a long time. Just shake it and then get it out of there and dry it. Don't let it sit for days on days on days. And as we're wiping now, there is pretty much no residue being left on the rag. So that is good, that's what we want. If you're still getting residue, then you can do more baths of denatured alcohol until you are satisfied with your levels of residue. So I'm pretty clean, good enough for me and my purposes, especially for a training chain like this one. If you're doing a race chain, I might give it one more bath. But that's that. So once that's dry, with the rag, you want to let it sit out for probably at least 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes, just to be safe, because you want it to dry thoroughly. What I do usually is, to speed up the process, I hit it with a hair dryer, a blow dryer in the bathroom, just to make sure it's completely dry, because you don't want it to be wet at all when you start waxing. So dry this out, and then we'll move on to the wax portion. All right, so now we have finished the initial cleaning process. Like I said, everything up until this point you only need to do once for the life of the chain. So now we get into the actual waxing process, and this is what you're gonna do every time you need to re-wax your chain. So that's after you ride it 200 to 500 miles, or after every time you ride in the rain, you're gonna wanna re-wax it and do this. So you'll need a crock pot. Well, I guess you don't technically need a crock pot, or it's a slow cooker actually, it's a slow cooker. You could use just a regular pot, but the good thing about these slow cookers is on the low setting, it is the perfect temperature to wax your chain. So I got this for $12 off of Amazon. It's just a really small, slow cooker. I think it's like the smallest size they sell. It's like a quart or something. So you want one of those, and then I just get Gulf Wax, also from Amazon. It's actually been tested to be one of the fastest waxes that there is. But really you want any paraffin wax that is food grade or lab grade. So I get these Gulf Waxes, and I think this is a 1 pound box, and it comes in 4 blocks. So I will throw into the slow cooker 2 of the blocks of wax, so I guess that is half a pound of wax, into the slow cooker, and that will get me probably 15 re-waxes out of that. You could tell the wax, when it's time to change out the wax, it just gets really, really dirty in there. Or you might be running out of wax and you might need to add more. So at that point you can just dump out the wax and throw in some fresh new wax. So basically you plug in the slow cooker, you throw it on the low setting. I already have wax in here. That's why it's great to have a dedicated slow cooker, because then you could just keep the wax in there and keep reusing it. So throw it on the low setting, you pop your half pound of wax in there. If you have a bigger slow cooker, you might need more wax so that you have enough depth to wax a chain. And then you let it heat up to about like 160 degrees. So that's what the low setting is gonna get you to. If you are using a regular old pot, then you're going to want a thermometer, like a little meat thermometer like this, because you don't want it to get too hot. Also, if you're using a pot, you want to put the flame on extremely low. You want it to heat up slowly and not too fast. You don't want the wax to get too hot. So it takes maybe an hour for this to warm up, so I'll let that warm up and then I'll come back. At this point, we're ready to wax, or if you're re-waxing, re-wax your chain. The process is the same. So you can take a wire clothes hanger and just kind of bend it into this kind of swisher tool shape. It's about as wide as my 4 knuckles on the widest part. You want to make sure that it is able to fit into your slow cooker and do the swishing. So you can just thread your chain onto the swisher tool. Again, before you wax your chain, you want to make sure it has dried thoroughly and there is no water or moisture on there. So either let it hang dry for a sufficient amount of time, anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes usually should do the job, or force dry it with, a blow dryer or something similar. So once you got it on the swisher tool, dunk it into the crock pot and swish it around a little bit. Now you want to let the chain heat up to the same temperature as the wax. So I usually leave it in there for a few minutes, and then I come back, swish it around for about 60 seconds, and then we take it out, wipe it off with a paper towel, and hang it to dry, and I'll show you that after it heats up. You simply just swish it for a minute, You don't got to go too crazy. You don't want wax flying all over the place. But just give it a good swish for a minute. Once you're done swishing, you can take it out, let it do a drip dry. And you're gonna wanna grab a paper towel. And I like to just wipe off just the outside, just the outer links of the chain. Careful, it's hot. You don't gotta go too crazy wiping it off. I just like to wipe off a little bit of the excess that's on the outside. And that's it, now you're done. So the chain is hot, so careful when you're touching it. And I hang it to dry, or I guess cool. So I'll show you what I fashioned to hang it to dry, but you can do anything. You could do a nail in the wall, or you could even just hang this swisher tool up as is. So I'll show you how I do that. So this is how I hang my chains to dry. I fashioned these little hooks out of a wire clothes hanger, so onto my work stand. So that way I am able to just take it from the swisher tool. Again, be careful because it's hot. And I just hang it from the hook that I made out of a clothes hanger. So this is just a little hook. And it's bendable because it's just a clothes hanger. Oh, shoot. All right, so this is how I hang the chains to dry. I fashion these little hooks out of wire clothes hanger, and I hang them around my bike work stand. And that way you can take the chain, and careful because it is hot. You might want to wear gloves or use a paper towel or something. And I just hang it right onto that bit of clothes hanger fashioned into a hook. You can put a nail in the wall or anything. You can get creative with how you hang it. And that is how I hang it to let it dry. All right, so it is the next morning. The chain is dry, and what happens is it gets pretty stiff. So you can kind of break it and loosen it up with your fingers. Just kind of run down the length of it like this. Or if you have something, an easy way is to just floss it like this. Like to get both sides. And that's just gonna loosen up the links. And then you're ready to put it back on the bike. Once you do, it's probably gonna take about 20 minutes, 30 minutes of riding before it's completely loosened up. But then after that, you're good to go. Final step, you gotta put the chain onto the bike. So obviously you will need your chain, your bike, the quick links, and the pliers. So I'll show you how to thread it through. So for these Shimano chains, you want the lettering to face the outside, or at least that's what they say, so I follow. I'm not aware of any other chains being directional. So thread it through the front derailleur like that. And then over the cassette. Then you're gonna wanna come down this way and over this jockey wheel first. And then there is a little bar there that you want the chain to go above around the second jockey wheel. And again, there's a bar here that you want it to go underneath. And that is how you thread it through. Then you want to attach your quick link, one here, and one here. Connect them, and once you got them connected, then you take your chain pliers and the opposite of when you take it apart, you just tighten it. and you should hear a satisfying click. Sometimes you might get a little wax buildup in there, either in between the pins and the rollers or in the little quick link itself. You might just need to pick it out. Sometimes that helps. But you should hear that satisfying click. That means it's good, you're safe to go. If you don't have chain pliers, what you can do is you can put it like on the trainer and smash down really hard on the cranks, and sometimes that gets it to connect. But these chain pliers, they're pretty cheap. You can get them on Amazon, and they go both ways. So they disconnect, and then it also connects them. So does both jobs. So that's good. You're good to go. Make sure to ride it 20-30 minutes before it's broken in. Obviously, that doesn't matter if you're training, but if you got a race and you freshly wax it, make sure to ride at least 30 minutes to get it nice and broken in so it's nice and loose. Sometimes you get a little wax buildup in the lower cogs. So every once in a while, you just got to pick that out, but that's about it. So hope you enjoy. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see.